Hello everyone and welcome to another Weekly Wisdom. Today we're going to be talking about something that is very close to my heart, my lungs. No, I'm only kidding, it's a terrible dad joke. Today we're going to be talking about KPIs. So how many times have you been in your, say, agency, or maybe you work an in-house job and someone's come up to you and said, hey, I would like 10 DA 30 links this month, and you're just like, oh, kill me now. Or they're maybe like, oh, I would like #1 rankings for this particular keyword, and you're like, but that's not a thing. And all these ridiculous non-SEO based requests that are not actually going to do any difference to their business whatsoever. That's why having a solid reporting and KPI structure is really important. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go on the iPad and I'm going to write out the exact KPI structure we use at Type A Media and some of the metrics we use for reporting, so hopefully you don't have all those awful conversations about link metrics and DA and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so this is a marketing talk. So what do all marketing talks have in common? They have an upside down triangle in them always. Okay, once we have our very well done upside down triangle, we need to split it into sections. So essentially what we're doing here is using this as our sales funnel and attaching it to some sort of KPIs. Okay, so we're going to split it into 3 major areas: conversational, informational, and then transactional. Each of these are at different stages of the sales pipeline. So at the start with conversational, we're going to be thinking about KPIs that are just getting people in and starting to get them interested in your product or your service. Informational is where we take them out of the paid acquisition funnel into something like email or some sort of subscribership to social. And then lastly is transactional, when we physically get them to buy something. Okay, so let's talk about conversational KPIs. These are essentially all the things that your clients typically ask for, but don't really have a huge bearing on the day-to-day. So think top of funnel things that are important because it shows movement, but ultimately you can't take it to the bank. So let's go in and have a think. The first one would be impressions. So impressions, as they go up and as they grow, that means good because we're getting a higher search footprint. Now this is a slightly controversial one. So saying that rankings are conversational and not actually that important of a KPI when we work in SEO, a lot of people might disagree. However, you can't, with a #1 ranking, you can't pay your mortgage with that. It's transactions that you can pay your mortgage with. So let's put that way back in the priority and let's have a very grown-up conversations that rankings are a flag and an indicator, but not really a hardcore metric to live and die by. A couple of other conversational metrics are going to be things like time on site, potentially bounce depending on the type of organization you're working for. If you work for a publisher, then bounce doesn't matter at all, because if they jump on, read the article and leave because they've come from social, that's absolutely fine, we're not really bothered. But if you're a lead gen site or an e-commerce site, time on site and certain pages visited. So are they adding to basket more often? Are they going to the checkout page more often? Are they going to your sales page more often? All these are good conversational metrics so that we know that we're doing a good job without having the hardcore cash in the bank metric showing up. Okay, so next up is informational. So think of informational as taking them out of paid acquisition, and when we think of bought, owned and earned media, this is where we really look at earned media. So a couple of things I care about here. I care about email subscribers. Perhaps if you're an e-commerce website, you've got some sort of competition mechanic or something that you want them to do that's not a purchase. Or maybe you're one of those websites that's got quite high consideration purchases, so there's quite a long lead time from discovery to actual purchase itself, so you probably want them to subscribe to social so you can continue messaging without having to pay to reach. Other examples of informational KPIs will very much depend on your industry. So if you're in something like publishing, things like time on site actually comes out of conversational and into informational, because that's a prerequisite to you monetizing through ads. If it's a lead generation site, things like clicking a callback form or something like that are more like your informational KPIs. It's not money in the bank, but people requesting a callback and going into your CRM database, that's getting them to a good place where they're about to transact, but we call that our informational KPIs. Okay, so the last one is transactional, and this is the one that most people care about, but let's not be completely blind to what transactional may mean based on your business and based on your KPIs. So I was speaking to a really good friend of mine, Nick Wilsden, who is the SEO at Vodafone, and when I asked him, what's your major kind of transactional KPIs? It must be, new signups and all that sort of stuff. And he says, no, the main KPI we care about is downloads of the app, because they already have huge market penetration and lots of monthlies coming in. So just because you think that money in the bank feels like the thing to go for, check with your CEO, check with the C-suite, make sure that you're completely aligned with the people who are giving you the budget to run the digital campaigns. But let's go into what those KPIs typically look like. So there's usually 3 different types of transactional KPIs. It's usually leads if you're lead gen, money if you're e-commerce, and downloads if you're some sort of SaaS business. So actually there's a step outside of transactional, it's after purchase or post-purchase care. So if you're like a SaaS business, it's things like stickiness and lifetime value. If you're an e-commerce business, it's how often someone comes back and repeat purchases. So because we're an SEO, which is typically an acquisitions channel, it's unlikely you're going to need to do any sort of secondary CRM type reporting. However, it's very good to keep that in mind when you're talking to people so that you know what they care about as well as what you care about as a digital guy. Okay, so just as a recap, there's 3 major types. So we've got our transactional, our informational, and our conversational, and typically they all connect together in one marketing funnel. Bear in mind, when you're speaking to your client, they're going to want to care about rankings and things like that, which is very much conversational, top of funnel. We don't really care. Try and make sure that inside your reporting, you've got all these different bases covered so that at any point in the relationship, you can show the value of your work. Well, that's everything for this week. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please tell me in the comments down below how you do your reporting. And until next time, we will see you later.